Guess you don't count. That's what my sister said when the seating chart placed me outside, next to the trash bins. The hallway reeked faintly of lilies and disinfectant. Through the closed doors, I could hear the DJ counting down to the first dance. My mother fussed with her pearl necklace. My father avoided my eyes. I tightened my hold on the gift I'd wrapped the night before, brushed a crease from my wine-colored dress, and chose silence. No scene, no tears, just a quiet exit into the crisp Vermont air. 5 minutes later, the chandeliers went dark, and a scream split the room in two. Here's how it unfolded. That morning, Vermont air bit cold and clean, sharp with pine and the faint scent of money. My sister Leia had picked the lakeside resort for its so-called European elegance, the kind of venue people posted photos from just to prove they'd made the guest list. The glass ballroom looked out over the water, glittering with orchids and candles floating in crystal bowls. Every table gleamed beneath the chandeliers, except, apparently, mine. Mine sat outside by the trash. I'd driven up alone, 3 hours from Boston, replaying Mom's last text the whole way. Please, Amber, no drama today. It's Leia's day. That was always my role, an instruction, a caution, a reminder to stay small. Don't draw attention. Don't take up space. Don't remind anyone there's another daughter. Growing up, we were the family cliché, the golden child and the quiet one. Leia had ribbons, trophies, applause. I had report cards no one bothered to read. She'd cry and get comforted. I'd fix things and be forgotten. Mom called me the easy one. Dad said I was independent. Different words, same meaning. Invisible was convenient. The last time we'd all been together was Thanksgiving, 3 years back. The house smelled like burnt pie crust and lemon cleaner. Leia was off in Portugal with her new boyfriend, and for once, the air felt easy. Mom asked me to fetch an old photo album from her vanity drawer. Instead, I found a small brown journal, its edges worn soft from years of handling. I flipped through it idly, until I realized every entry began the same way. Leia's first day of kindergarten. Leia's favorite meal. Leia's college acceptance. Not one mention of me. Not my birthdays. Not my name. When I asked her about it, she smiled like I was being silly. You never needed the attention, honey. You were always fine. That night, I realized there are two kinds of being forgotten, being lost and being erased. That thought stayed with me as I walked toward the ballroom, my heels echoing against the marble floor. Through the glass doors, I could see them posing for photos, Mom draped in champagne silk, Dad adjusting his tie, and Leia radiant in white. She turned briefly, caught sight of me, and smiled, the kind of smile people give cashiers they'll never remember. Before I could step inside, the event coordinator stopped me, clipboard in hand. "You're Miss Hayes?" she asked. "Yes." Her polite expression faltered as she scanned the list. "You're assigned to hallway seating." I let out a short laugh, waiting for her to realize her mistake. She didn't. Hallway seating by the trash bins. She pointed toward a small folding table near the service doors. From there, I could see the whole ballroom, every shimmer, every laugh, separated from it all by a wall, both real and symbolic. I placed my gift, a small silver-wrapped box I'd carefully chosen, on the table and watched through the glass. Inside, Leia raised her glass for a photo. Mom fixed her veil. Outside, I sat in the chill of the draft, repeating the same lie I'd told myself for years. It's fine. You don't need them. But the truth pressed heavy against my ribs. Maybe I didn't need them, but that didn't mean they could pretend I'd never existed. I tried to blend into the background like always, but the hallway was alive with movement. Staff bustled in and out through the service doors, rolling bins of melting ice, laughing quietly among themselves. Each time the door swung open, I caught glimpses of glittering chandeliers, swaying gowns, and my mother's approving hand resting on Leia's shoulder like a crown. Then the laughter inside changed. I looked up to see Leia walking toward me, bouquet in one hand, veil trailing behind her like smoke. She stopped just short of the doorway, her reflection mirrored in the glass, two Leias, one adored inside, one cruel outside. "Well," she said, tilting her head, "looks like they finally figured out where you belong." I blinked. What's that supposed to mean? That familiar half smile curved on her lips, the same one she used right before taking the spotlight. Guess you don't count. The words slipped out softly, almost tender, so much that it took a moment to feel how sharp they really were. Guess you don't count. Like an equation. Like I was just an error in the math. For a moment, I couldn't speak. My throat tightened, that kind of dryness that comes from swallowing more pride than you should. Behind her, the photographer called out, "Bride, we need you back for the shot." She didn't move. She was waiting for a reaction, for me to cry, to plead, to confirm whatever story she'd written about me. I didn't give her that. I just held her gaze long enough for her perfect smile to falter. "You know," I said softly, "there's always been room for both of us. You're the one who keeps making it smaller." Her expression sharpened. "Oh, please, Amber. Not everything revolves around you. This is my day. You could at least try to look happy for once." A small, brittle laugh escaped me, the kind that sounds like air leaking through a crack. "You made sure I couldn't even stay in the same room," I said. "Tell me, what exactly am I supposed to be celebrating?" For a split second, her mask slipped. Something flickered there. Fear, maybe. Then she straightened, chin high again. "You always twist everything. Maybe Mom was right. You make life impossible." The word mom landed harder than I expected. I thought of that brown notebook again. Every page dedicated to Leia. None to me. "I'm not difficult," I said quietly. "You just hate that I see things as they are." She rolled her eyes. "You sound exactly like Dad. Pathetic and bitter. Face it, Amber. No one needs your approval. Not here, not anywhere." She spun around and walked off, leaving behind the scent of perfume and contempt. I watched her go, her white dress sweeping the floor, and felt that familiar sting behind my eyes. But this time, it didn't ache the same way. It burned cleaner. When the door closed, I reached for the small silver box on the table, the gift I'd wrapped the night before, sealed with quiet patience. I ran my finger over the ribbon once, then slipped it into my bag. If they didn't want me inside, fine. But I wasn't walking away empty-handed. Not again. For a while, I sat there, fingertips tracing the box's cool edge, listening to the muffled rhythm of music bleeding through the ballroom doors. It was their first dance, the perfect picture. I could almost see Mom wiping tears, Dad clapping awkwardly, Leia soaking in every ounce of attention. The same scene I'd watched all my life from the sidelines, but edges cut. I rose slowly, my reflection caught in the glass panel, composed, maybe even elegant if you didn't look too close. The silver box in my bag felt heavier than it should. I'd wrapped it too carefully, tied the ribbon too tight. It wasn't just a gift. It was evidence, something sharp enough to crack the perfect image Leia built out of lies. 3 weeks earlier, I'd met one of her old co-workers in Boston. What started as a harmless lunch had turned into a confession. Leia had been boasting for months about her engagement to Rich, about how easy it was to make Noah trust her. "He's sweet," she'd said, "but gullible. A few fake tears, and I get the house, the money, the last name." She'd laughed. My coffee had gone cold. I hadn't planned on using that truth, not until today. Before leaving the hallway, I stopped by the reception table near the ballroom doors. The wedding planner was too busy fussing over the centerpieces to notice me. I slipped the small silver box in among the other presents, resting it neatly atop the stack labeled for Leia and Noah. My handwriting was careful, deliberate. Inside, on a crystal photo frame, sat a folded note beside printed screenshots, messages her coworker had quietly shown me, complete with receipts. It wasn't revenge, just honesty. I stepped back, glanced once at my reflection, and smoothed the fabric of my dress. My pulse stayed steady, calm in a way that almost felt unfamiliar. Then I turned and walked toward the doors. Outside, the Vermont evening greeted me with a rush of cold air. The lake shimmered beneath the lights, a mirror I no longer needed. Behind me, faint applause echoed, people cheering for a dance I had no desire to watch anymore. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small or invisible. The gravel crunched beneath my heels as I reached the parking lot, each step punctuating an ending. No grand farewell, no last words, just the quiet click of the car door closing. As the engine started, I looked once more toward the glowing windows, silhouettes shifting behind the glass. Let the truth find its way, I whispered. Inside the ballroom, laughter still floated over the music. A saxophonist drew out a soft note. Glasses chimed. Guests circled closer around the dancing couple. Leia glowed in her heavy white gown, the flawless image she'd practiced for months. Noah twirled her once, twice. Camera flashes painted them in gold. From outside, framed by the tall windows, the scene looked like a snow globe. Perfect, sealed, unreal. Then the silver box was opened. It happened near the gift table. A cousin had gathered the presents, arranging ribbons and bows for pictures. Someone called out, "Let's have them open a few," a spur-of-the-moment performance for the crowd. Leia laughed, loosened the ribbon, tore away the paper, and lifted the lid. Inside rested the crystal frame, and beneath it, the folded note. Her fingers paused. "What's this?" she murmured. Noah leaned closer. The note slipped free and landed face up on the table. His eyes caught the screenshots before she could grab them. His brow tightened as he scanned the pale blue text bubbles. One line stood out. "He's so easy to handle. Cry a little, and he buys me anything I want." The music didn't cut off immediately. It just faltered. The violinist missed a beat. Leia's hands trembled. "This isn't someone's trying to..." Noah said nothing. He kept reading, each page worse than the last. Jokes about getting him to sign the prenup first, about moving her parents into the guest house once he was secured. The same smirk she'd given me earlier that day now hung frozen, brittle, wrong. "Who sent this?" she hissed. Across the room, Victoria, her mother-in-law, had been watching. When she heard one bridesmaid whisper Amber Hayes, her expression hardened. She crossed the floor slowly, with the authority of someone who never rushes. "I suggest you finish reading before blaming anyone," she said evenly. "These were sent to me this morning, forwarded from a stylist you hired. Apparently, they landed in the wrong chat." Leia's face drained of color. "That's impossible." Noah's voice was quiet. "It's real, Leia. The dates line up." He turned the final page to a photo of her text. "The house will be mine by Christmas." A collective gasp rippled through the guests. Phones rose. The photographer froze mid-shot. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Leia lunged for the papers. "You can't show people that." Victoria stepped between them. "You showed it yourself, sweetheart." That's when the screaming began. Not loud at first, more like a breath collapsing too fast. Leia stumbled back, the train of her gown snagging beneath her heel. "No, you don't understand. He's lying." She, my sister, Noah's jaw clenched. "She did this. Amber didn't send those messages. She set them up. She's envious. She's always..." "Stop." The single word cracked through the room like a whip. "You did this. You humiliated her today and thought no one would ever see who you really are." Every head turned toward them. The DJ lowered the music. A small voice piped up, "Mom, what's happening?" Leia's perfect day was crumbling, and she couldn't keep it from collapsing. She spun toward her parents. "Do something." My mother, Maggie, stood near the head table, pale, her champagne glass trembling in her hand. My father stared at the floor, lips pressed tight. For once, neither came to her defense. "You knew," Noah said quietly, his voice unsteady now. "You knew exactly what you were doing." He reached inside his jacket, pulled out a folded sheet, and laid it on the table. "This is an annulment petition. I've already signed it." Leia stared at the paper as if it might shock her. "You can't, Noah. You can't humiliate me like this." "I'm not humiliating you," he replied evenly. "You did that yourself." The music stopped completely. A silence fell, so deep it hummed in everyone's ears. Then came the sound that would stay with the guests. Glass shattering as a picture frame hit the floor. Her voice broke. "She's behind this. Amber's behind all of it." Victoria exhaled slowly. "Funny," she said. "The only thing your sister did was tell the truth." Outside, I stood by the car, engine idling. The ballroom's light shimmered across the lake. I couldn't make out every word, but I heard the scream, sharp, high, carrying over the water, followed by the dull thud of a chair tipping. It was the sound I'd waited my whole life to hear, not for revenge, but for release. Inside, Leia's mascara streaked down her cheeks. "You'll regret this," she cried, voice splintering. Noah turned away, shoulders heavy. "No, Leia, you will." He walked off the dance floor, Victoria following him, the crowd parting like a tide. Mom reached for Leia's arm. "Sweetheart, maybe we should step outside." "Don't touch me," she sobbed, yanking free. "You all wanted this. You never loved me enough." Her words dissolved into broken sobs. Then Dad spoke, quietly, for the first time that night. "You should apologize to your sister." The room froze. Even Mom looked stunned. Leia let out a brittle laugh that didn't reach her eyes. "Apologize to her? She's not even family." Dad shook his head slowly. "That's where you're wrong." He didn't explain, just turned away, shoulders heavy, blending into the stream of guests leaving the hall. By the time the lights dimmed and staff started sweeping up shards of glass, Leia was still there, alone beneath the chandelier. Her gown, once radiant, now looked tired and creased. The bouquet lay toppled beside her chair. The same hands that had once shoved me away now reached for nothing, grasping at air. She never noticed me. I was already gone. Through the fogged car window, I watched people rushing out into the parking lot, their whispers trailing like smoke. It's all over social media already. "Did you see his face? That poor girl." No, not her. The sister. I didn't feel victory, only stillness. My hand rested on the steering wheel as my mind drifted back to the hallway, the scent of lilies mixed with bleach, the folding chair that groaned when I sat. That's where it all began, beside the trash cans. And that's where it ended, with truth laid bare before every person who'd ever looked past me. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it murmurs, "Now they see you." The last scream faded into the night. The lake fell silent again, smooth, calm, untouched. I turned the key, headlights spilling over gravel, and drove away from the sound of my sister's perfect world crumbling behind me. By the time I reached Boston, dawn was softening the sky. Highway signs blurred past, the hum of tires steady and low, like white noise after years of shouting I'd learned to tune out. My phone buzzed endlessly in the cup holder. 16 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dad, 1 from an unknown number. I didn't open any of them. The silence was worth more than their words. When I stepped into my apartment, it smelled faintly of coffee and rain. The city outside was waking, headlights flashing across my window. I hung my dress over a chair and stared. The deep wine fabric was still flawless, untouched by the chaos of the night. It looked like armor I hadn't realized I was wearing. A message appeared on my screen. "Please answer, Amber." We didn't know. That was Mom. She always said that when the damage was already done. We didn't know, but she did. She'd known every time she told me to keep quiet. Every time she laughed at Leia's jokes. Every time she said, "You're fine." I placed the phone face down on the counter and opened my laptop instead. A map of Maine glowed back at me, scattered with tiny coastal towns. I chose one at random, somewhere I'd never been, and clicked book. A week by the ocean sounded like peace. Before leaving, I stepped out onto the balcony. The city air felt cleaner than it had in years. Across the river, morning light split the skyline into gold and shadow. They could keep their apologies, their explanations, their versions of truth. I had my own now. For the first time, silence didn't feel like invisibility. It felt like freedom. At my sister's wedding, I was seated beside the trash cans. This morning, I'm sitting by the river. Same silence, different meaning. Back then, it was humiliation. Now it's peace. Sometimes, the loudest revenge isn't a scream. It's the sound of your footsteps as you walk away. They thought I'd always stay, waiting for their approval. But I don't wait anymore. I don't beg for a seat at someone else's table. I build my own. And if you've ever been pushed aside by the very people who were meant to love you, remember this. Walking away isn't surrender. It's the first step toward freedom. Tell me, have you ever had to walk away from your own family?